I am 32, female, and my husband, Mark, is 35, male. The first pain was a gentle squeeze, a quiet announcement. I was in the kitchen, folding tiny baby clothes that I had washed for the third time. It was more about keeping my hands busy than about cleanliness. The doctor said the baby could come any day now, and my body felt like a clock winding itself tighter and tighter. I paused, my hand resting on a small, yellow onesie. I smiled. This was it. The beginning. I looked at the clock on the wall. It was just after 2 in the afternoon. Mark was supposed to be home from work soon. He worked in finance, a job with long hours that he always said were for us, for our future. I felt another squeeze, this one a little stronger, a little more insistent. I took a deep breath, just like we practiced in our birthing class. I walked into the living room and sat on the large yoga ball that had been my constant companion for the past month. I bounced gently, trying to soothe the growing ache in my lower back. I decided to wait for a few more contractions before calling him. I did not want to seem like I was overreacting. Mark often accused me of being dramatic. He would say it with a little laugh, but it always felt like a small cut. I learned to downplay my feelings to keep the peace. An hour passed. The contractions were coming steadily now, about 10 minutes apart. They were still manageable, but they had my full attention. I picked up my phone to call Mark. His phone went straight to voicemail. That was not unusual. He often had his phone on silent during meetings. I left a message. Hey, it's me. I think it's starting. The contractions are about 10 minutes apart. Call me when you get this. I love you. I try to keep my voice calm and cheerful. I did not want him to worry. I sent him a text message too, just in case he saw that first. I think baby is on the way, smiley face. Call me. I put the phone down beside me on the sofa. I tried to focus on my breathing. The house was so quiet. The silence seemed to amplify the rhythmic tightening in my belly. I had packed my hospital bag weeks ago. It was sitting by the front door, ready to go. Our car seat was installed in the back of his car. Everything was prepared. All I needed was my husband. Another hour went by. The contractions were closer now, maybe 7 minutes apart. The pain was sharper. I had to stop and breathe through each one. I called Mark again. Voicemail. I called his office. The receptionist told me he had left for the day about an hour ago. My heart started to beat a little faster. Where was he? He should have been home by now. He knew how close I was to my due date. We had talked about it every single day. I felt a surge of panic. I pushed it down. There was probably a simple explanation. Traffic was bad. He stopped to run an errand. He forgot to charge his phone. I told myself all the things a loving wife would believe. I called my brother, Liam. He answered on the second ring. Hey, what's up? He asked. I took a shaky breath. I think I'm in labor, I said. No way. That's amazing. Where's Mark? Are you guys on your way to the hospital? He asked, his voice full of excitement. I can't reach him, I said, and my voice cracked. He left work over an hour ago, but he's not home. His phone goes to voicemail. I could not keep the fear out of my voice. Liam's tone changed instantly. Okay. Stay calm. I'm on my way. I'll be there in 20 minutes. Just keep breathing. Have you called the doctor? He asked. Not yet. I wanted to wait for Mark, I said. Call the doctor now. Then call me back and tell me what they said. I'm leaving right now, he said. He sounded so solid, so reliable. It was a comfort. I hung up and called my doctor's office. The nurse listened to me describe my contractions. She told me to come to the hospital when they were 5 minutes apart, or if my water broke. I thanked her and hung up. The pain was getting worse. I could no longer sit on the yoga ball. I started pacing the living room floor, stopping to lean against the wall and breathe every time a wave of pain washed over me. I kept looking out the window, expecting to see Mark's car pull into the driveway at any moment. But the street remained empty. Where could he be? The simple explanations were starting to feel thin. A dark thought started to creep into my mind. He was angry with me this morning. We had argued about his mother. She had called and made a comment about how I was letting the house go in my final weeks of pregnancy. I had told Mark it was unfair, and he had defended her, as he always did. He said I was too sensitive. He left for work without kissing me goodbye. It was a stupid fight, but with Mark, stupid fights could fester. He had a talent for punishment, usually through silence or withholding affection.
But he would not do that now.
Not today. He could not be that cruel. Liam arrived just as he promised. He rushed in, his face etched with worry. He took one look at me, bent over the back of the sofa, and his expression hardened. He came over and rubbed my back until the contraction passed. "Anything for Mark?" he asked. I shook my head, tears welling in my eyes.
No.
Nothing.
I'm scared, Liam, he whispered.
I know.
It's going to be okay.
I'm here. We'll give him another 30 minutes. Then we go to the hospital with or without him, he said.
His voice was firm.
We waited. Liam timed my contractions. They were now just over 5 minutes apart. He made me drink water. He tried to make me laugh with a stupid joke. But my eyes were glued to the driveway. Every car that passed made my heart leap with hope, only to sink again. 30 minutes turned into an hour. The pain was intense. I could not pretend anymore. It was time to go. Okay, that's it. We're going, Liam said. He grabbed my hospital bag. He helped me put on my shoes. I felt a sense of numb disbelief. I was going to the hospital to have our baby, and my husband was missing. As we walked out the front door, I saw his car. It was parked 2 blocks down the street, partially hidden by a large oak tree. I stopped dead in my tracks. What is it? Liam asked. That's his car, I said, pointing. Liam's face darkened. Why would he park there? He asked. I don't know, I said. A cold dread was spreading through me. This was not an accident. This was deliberate. We got into Liam's car. As he drove us towards the hospital, he kept glancing at me. I was silent, lost in my thoughts. The physical pain was immense, but it was nothing compared to the emotional pain that was tearing me apart. I tried to call Mark one last time. Straight to voicemail. I stared out the window, watching the houses blur past. My husband was punishing me. On the day our child was being born, he was punishing me. The love I had for him felt like it was turning to glass in my chest, fragile and ready to shatter. I knew, in that moment, that something had broken between us that could never be fixed. I was going to have this baby alone, and I would have to be strong enough for both of us. The hospital was a blur of bright lights and efficient nurses. They got me into a room quickly. Liam stayed by my side, holding my hand, whispering words of encouragement. He was trying so hard to be everything I needed, and I loved him for it. But he was not Mark. And every time a new doctor or nurse came in, they would ask, "Where's Dad?" Each time, the question was a fresh stab of pain. Liam would just say, "He's on his way." It was a kind lie. The hours that followed were the hardest of my life. The labor was long and difficult. There were moments when I felt like I could not go on. In those moments, I would squeeze Liam's hand so hard my knuckles turned white. He never complained. He just held on tighter. He was my anchor in a sea of pain and confusion. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, my daughter was born.
She was perfect.
She had a full head of dark hair and tiny, perfect fingers. When they placed her on my chest, all the pain, all the fear, all the anger at Mark, it all melted away. There was only her, my baby. I cried, but this time they were tears of joy. I looked at Liam. He was crying too. He gently touched the baby's head. "She's beautiful," he whispered. "You did it." I had done it. I had brought this little person into the world, and I had done it without her father. The thought brought a fresh wave of sadness, but it was quickly overshadowed by an overwhelming sense of love for my daughter. I would protect her. I would never let anyone hurt her. The nurses cleaned her up and swaddled her in a blanket. They handed her back to me. I held her close, breathing in her scent. She was so small, so vulnerable. I promised her, silently, that I would always be there for her. I would be the parent she could always count on. A few hours later, as I was trying to get my daughter to latch for the first time, there was a knock on the door. A nurse popped her head in. "Your husband is here," she said with a smile. My whole body went rigid. Liam, who had been dozing in a chair in the corner, sat up straight. He looked at me, a question in his eyes. I gave him a small nod. I had to face him.
I had to know why.
Mark walked in, carrying a bouquet of cheap gas station flowers. He had a sheepish grin on his face. He looked tired, but not frantic or worried. He looked like a man who had gotten a full night's sleep. "Hey," he said softly, as if he had just been in the next room. "I'm so sorry. My phone died, and I got held up at work with a last-minute emergency. I came as soon as I could." He walked over to the bed and looked down at our daughter.
Wow.
She's really here." I stared at him, my heart a cold, hard stone in my chest. I did not say a word. I just watched him. He seemed to notice my silence for the first time. "Are you okay?" "I'm so sorry I missed it. I feel terrible," he said. He tried to sound sincere, but his eyes kept darting around the room, avoiding mine. I finally found my voice. It was quiet, but steady. "Your phone didn't die, Mark. I called your office. They said you left hours before I went into labor. And I saw your car. It was parked down the street from our house." His face paled. The sheepish grin vanished. He looked trapped. I don't know what you're talking about." "My car was at the office garage," he stammered. "Stop lying," I said. The words were sharp. Liam stood up and moved to stand beside my bed. He did not say anything, but his presence was a clear message. Mark's expression shifted from fake remorse to anger. It was a change I had seen many times before. It was the face he made when he was caught in a lie and had to fight his way out. "I am not lying. What is wrong with you? I just got here to see my new baby, and you're attacking me? After everything I do for you, for this family?" he said, his voice rising. "What you do for this family? What did you do yesterday, Mark? Where were you when I was in labor? Where were you when your daughter was being born?" I asked, my own voice getting louder. "I told you, I had a work emergency," he yelled. A nurse rushed in. "Please keep your voices down. There are other mothers and babies on this floor," she said gently. Mark shot her a dirty look, then turned back to me. He lowered his voice to a harsh whisper. "You are always so dramatic. You probably weren't even in real labor when you first called. You just wanted attention." That was it. The glass in my chest shattered. All the love I had left for him dissolved into dust. I looked at his face, contorted with anger and self-pity, and I felt nothing but disgust. "Get out," I said. My voice was calm again. Deadly calm. "What?" he asked, taken aback. I said, "Get out. Get out of my room. I don't want you here. I don't want you near my daughter," I said. He stared at me in disbelief. "You can't be serious. I am her father. I have a right to be here," he said. "You gave up your rights when you left me to give birth alone. Now get out before I call security," I said. Liam stepped forward. "You heard her."
Go, he said.
His voice was low and menacing. Mark looked from me to Liam. He saw that we were serious. His face twisted into a sneer.
"Fine.
"Have it your way. But you'll come crawling back. You have nothing without me. You live in my house. You spend my money. You'll see how hard it is on your own." He threw the flowers into the trash can by the door and stormed out of the room, slamming the door behind him. The room was silent for a long moment. I looked down at my daughter, who had slept through the entire thing. I stroked her soft cheek. Tears streamed down my face, but they were not tears of sadness. They were tears of rage. And in that moment, a new feeling took root in my heart. Resolve. He thought I had nothing without him. He thought I would come crawling back. I was going to show him just how wrong he was. I was going to take back my life. And I was going to start with his precious house. The next day, Liam went to the house to get some things for me and the baby. I gave him my key, but I had a sinking feeling it would not work. I was right. He called me from the front porch. The key isn't working. It's like he changed the locks, Liam said. I closed my eyes.
Of course he did.
It was another power play. Another way to show me that he was in control. He did change them, I said. I'm sure of it. What a piece of work. Do you want me to call a locksmith? He asked. No, I said, an idea forming in my mind. Don't do that. Just come back to the hospital for now. But can you do something for me first? Check the mail. See if there's anything important. Sure thing.
I'll be there soon, he said.
When Liam got back to the hospital, he had a small stack of mail with him. Bills, junk mail, and one large manila envelope addressed to Mark from a law firm. It was not from the lawyer we used when we bought the house. It was a different firm. My curiosity was piqued. What do you think that is? I asked Liam, pointing to the envelope. I don't know. Looks like legal stuff, he said. I want to know what's inside, I said. My hands were shaking slightly. Liam looked at me. Are you sure? Opening his mail is a federal offense, you know. I don't care. He locked me out of my own home while I was in labor. I think I'm entitled to bend a few rules, I said. My voice was hard. Liam nodded slowly. He understood. He carefully steamed the envelope open over the hot water kettle in the hospital room's small kitchenette. He pulled out a sheaf of papers. He started to read, his brow furrowed in concentration. After a few minutes, he let out a low whistle. You are not going to believe this, he said. What is it? I asked, my heart pounding. He looked up at me, his eyes wide with anger. It's a draft of a post-nuptial agreement. He was planning to have you sign it after the baby was born. He handed me the papers. I read them with a growing sense of horror. The agreement was completely one-sided. It stated that in the event of a divorce, Mark would get sole ownership of the house, regardless of who paid for it. It also severely limited any alimony or child support he would have to pay. It was a financial trap. He was going to use the vulnerability of having a newborn to trick me into signing away my rights. But that was not the worst part. Tucked in with the legal documents was an email chain between Mark and his mother. Liam had printed them out. They were discussing their plan. His mother wrote, You need to get her to sign this as soon as she's home from the hospital. She'll be emotional and tired. She won't even read it properly. Just tell her it's to protect the baby's future. Mark's reply was even more chilling. I know. I'm thinking of creating a bit of a scene before she goes into labor. Something to make her feel insecure and dependent on me. If she's scared, she'll be more likely to sign anything I put in front of her. A little fight. Maybe I'll stay out all night. Make her worry. I dropped the papers on the hospital bed. I felt sick to my stomach. It was all there in black and white. The lockout was not a spontaneous act of cruelty. It was a premeditated strategy. A calculated move in a sick game of control. He did not just abandon me. He conspired to break me. He planned it, I whispered, looking at Liam. He planned all of it. Liam's face was a mask of fury. He's not just a jerk.
He's a monster, he said.
I picked up the papers again. I read the emails over and over, the words burning themselves into my brain. This was not just a reason to divorce him. This was evidence. This was leverage. He had tried to trap me, but instead, he had given me the key to my own freedom. I looked at my baby girl, sleeping peacefully in her bassinet. My love for her was a fierce, protective fire. I would not let her grow up in a house with a man like that. I would not let her think that this kind of behavior was normal or acceptable. I looked back at Liam. I need a lawyer, I said. A really good one. And I need you to help me. Anything, he said without hesitation. Whatever you need, I'm with you. A plan began to form in my mind. It was audacious. It was risky. But it was the only way. Mark had used our house as a weapon against me. I was going to take that weapon and turn it back on him. He thought the house was his greatest source of power. I was about to show him it was his greatest weakness. He had underestimated me for the last time. The next few days in the hospital were a strange mix of newborn bliss and strategic planning. During the day, I focused entirely on my daughter, whose name I decided would be Lily. I learned her cries, her sleepy sighs, the way she curled her tiny hand around my finger. She was my whole world and the reason I had to be strong. At night, after Lily was asleep and the hospital was quiet, Liam and I would talk. He had contacted a lawyer, a woman named Sarah, who specialized in contentious divorces. She was known for being tough but fair. We had a conference call with her from my hospital room. I told her everything, my voice low and steady. I told her about the lockout, about Mark's behavior, and about the postnuptial agreement and the emails. Sarah listened patiently, only interrupting to ask for clarification on a few points. When I was finished, there was a long pause on the line. "This is more than just a bad divorce case," she said finally. "This is calculated emotional cruelty and attempted financial coercion. Those emails are a smoking gun. He and his mother conspired to put you under duress to sign a fraudulent document. This is very serious." "What can I do?" I asked. "He's changed the locks on the house. All my things are there. My name is on the deed, but he's acting like it's all his." "The house is the key," Sarah said. "You mentioned the down payment came from an inheritance from your grandmother. Do you have proof of that?" "Yes," I said. "I have the bank statements showing the transfer from my inheritance account to the escrow account. I kept all the paperwork from the sale. I had always been meticulous with our finances, a habit Mark had often mocked as unnecessary. Now I was grateful for it." "Excellent," Sarah said. "That gives us a huge advantage. The legal term is tracing. We can trace the down payment directly to your separate property. While the house is technically marital property because his name is on the deed, your contribution gives you a much stronger claim. In a divorce, a judge would likely award you a larger share of the equity, if not the whole house." "But a divorce could take years," I said. "I don't want to be tied to him for that long. I want a clean break." "There might be a faster way," Sarah said. "A more direct approach. He thinks he has all the power because he controls physical access to the house. We can use that arrogance against him. We can offer him a choice." "What kind of choice?" I asked. "He can either face a long, messy, and very public divorce where we present these emails as evidence of his character, which will not look good for a man in his profession, or he can sign a quitclaim deed, transferring his interest in the house to you, and we agree to a quiet, uncontested divorce," Sarah explained. A quitclaim deed. It sounded so simple. "Do you think he would ever agree to that?" I asked. "The house is his pride and joy. He calls it his castle." "His pride might be his downfall," Sarah said. "Men like Mark are often more afraid of public humiliation than anything else. The thought of his colleagues, his friends, his entire social circle reading those emails in a court filing might be enough to make him see reason. We present it not as a request, but as his only way out of a disaster of his own making." The plan was terrifying, but it was also brilliant. It was a gamble, but it was a calculated one. We spent the rest of the call working out the details. Sarah would draft the quitclaim deed and the divorce papers. Liam would be my witness. We would arrange a meeting with Mark on neutral territory. After the call, I felt a surge of adrenaline. For the first time since this nightmare began, I felt like I had some control. I was not just a victim anymore. I was a fighter. The day I was discharged from the hospital, I did not go home. Liam had already found a short-term furnished apartment for me and Lily. It was small, but it was safe. It was our sanctuary. Walking into that apartment, holding my baby, felt like taking my first breath of free air. We let Mark stew for a few days. He sent a few angry texts, demanding to know where I was, threatening to call the police and report me for kidnapping his child. I did not respond. On Sarah's advice, I let him spin his wheels. His panic would make him more pliable. Finally, Sarah sent a formal email to Mark, requesting a meeting to discuss the terms of our separation. She stated that I would be present, along with my legal counsel. She gave him a time and a place, a neutral conference room at a legal mediation center. Mark's reply was almost immediate. It was full of bluster. "I have nothing to discuss with her until she brings my daughter back to my house. I will not be bullied by some high-priced lawyer." Sarah's response was calm and professional. If you refuse to attend this meeting, we will have no choice but to file for divorce immediately and submit all supporting documentation to the court. This will include your email correspondence with your mother regarding the post-nuptial agreement. I believe it is in your best interest to attend. The threat worked. He agreed to the meeting. The day of the meeting, I was a nervous wreck. Liam took care of Lily, so I could focus. I met Sarah at the mediation center. She was just as I had imagined, sharp, professional, and radiating confidence. She squeezed my shoulder.
"You can do this," she said.
"Just stay calm and let me do the talking. Only speak when I ask you to. Remember, you hold all the cards." We walked into the conference room. Mark was already there, sitting at a long polished table. He looked pale and angry. He stood up when I walked in. "Where is Lily?" he demanded. "She is safe," I said, my voice not wavering. "She should be at home, in her nursery," he shot back. "She is home. She is with me," I replied. I sat down opposite him. Sarah sat beside me, placing her briefcase on the table. Mark sneered. "So, you got a lawyer. You think you can scare me? You have no grounds for divorce." "I haven't done anything." Sarah opened her briefcase and took out a single folder. She slid it across the table to him. "I believe you are mistaken," she said calmly. "Please take a look." Mark opened the folder. Inside were the printed copies of his emails with his mother. I watched his face as he read them. All the color drained from it. His bravado evaporated, replaced by a look of pure, unadulterated panic. He looked up at me, his eyes wide with a mixture of hatred and fear. "You went through my mail? That's illegal," he hissed. "What you planned to do to me was immoral and cruel," I said. My voice is shaking now. The present tense of the moment takes over. This is happening right now. I feel the fear but also the strength. "You tried to break me." Sarah speaks again, her voice cutting through the tension. "We are not here to debate the legality of how this information came to light, Mr. Miller. We are here to discuss your options. And right now you have 2". She places 2 documents on the table. "Option 1, she says, tapping the first one. "You sign this quitclaim deed, relinquishing all your interest in the house on Elm Street. You also sign this uncontested divorce agreement, which includes a fair child support arrangement based on your income and a 50-50 custody plan, to be phased in as Lily gets older. In return, we walk away. These emails are never filed in court. Your reputation remains intact." She pauses, letting the words sink in. Then she taps the second, much thicker document. "Option 2, she says, her voice like ice. "You refuse." I walk out of this room and file this with the court. It is a petition for divorce on the grounds of extreme cruelty. It includes a full account of you locking your wife out of the house while she was in labor. It includes sworn affidavits from her brother and the hospital staff. And it includes, as Exhibit A, your entire email exchange with your mother. It will all become public record. We will ask for the house, full custody, and punitive damages. And we will win. Mark is staring at the papers, his jaw clenched. He looks like a cornered animal. I can see the wheels turning in his head. He is calculating the cost. Not the emotional cost, but the financial and social cost. "This is extortion," he spits out. "This is a choice," Sarah corrects him. "A choice you have to make right now. What is more important to you? A house you did not pay for, or your entire professional and personal reputation?" He looks at me, his eyes pleading for the first time. "We can work this out. We don't have to do this. Think about our daughter." I feel a flicker of the old me, the me who would have given in to keep the peace. But then I see Lily's face in my mind. I see the future she would have with this man, a future of manipulation and control. The flicker dies. I am strong now. "I am thinking about her," I say. "That's why we are doing this. You have 5 minutes to decide, Mark. After that, the offer is off the table." He buries his head in his hands. The silence in the room is deafening. I can hear my own heart beating. This is the moment. Everything hinges on this. Finally, he looks up. His face is a wreck of defeat and fury. Fine, he whispers. I'll sign. Sarah pushes a pen across the table. Sign here and here, she says, her voice devoid of any triumph. It is all business. I watch as he signs his name on the two documents. The scratch of the pen on the paper is the sweetest sound I have ever heard.
It is the sound of my chains breaking.
It is the sound of my freedom. He shoves the papers back across the table. Are you happy now? He says, his voice dripping with venom. You've destroyed our family. You've taken my house. You destroyed our family when you left me on the doorstep, I say, standing up. And it was never your house. I turn and walk out of the room without looking back. I do not feel joy. I do not feel sadness. I just feel empty. But it is a clean kind of empty. The kind of empty space you need to build something new. As I walk out into the bright sunlight, I know that for me and Lily, the future is finally our own. The days following the signing were a whirlwind of legal paperwork. Sarah filed everything immediately. The transfer of the house deed was expedited. Within a week, the house on Elm Street was solely in my name. I had not set foot in it yet. The thought of going back there, to the place where my marriage had so spectacularly imploded, filled me with a strange sense of dread. It was a house full of ghosts. Liam was my rock through it all. He helped me navigate the complexities of setting up a new life. He would come over to my small apartment in the evenings after Lily was asleep, and we would just talk. So, what are you going to do with the house? He asked one night, as we sat on the tiny balcony overlooking the city. I sighed. I don't know. Part of me wants to sell it and never look back. But it's the only real asset I have. It's Lily's security. You could rent it out, he suggested. Maybe, I said. But the thought of being a landlord, of dealing with tenants while I'm trying to raise a baby on my own, it's overwhelming. I looked at him.
He had done so much for me.
He had been my protector, my confidant, my family. An idea, wild and sudden, sparked in my mind. What if I gave it to you? I said. Liam choked on his drink.
What?
You're kidding, right? He asked. No, I'm serious, I said, the idea taking root and growing stronger with every word. Think about it. You're renting that tiny apartment downtown for fortune. The house has 3 bedrooms. It's a good investment. I could sign it over to you. It would still be in the family. It would be safe. I can't let you do that, he said, shaking his head. That house is your nest egg. It's worth a lot of money. And you are my brother, I said, my voice thick with emotion. You saved me. You were there for me when my own husband left me for dead. How can I ever repay you for that? This is how. Let me do this. Please. I explained my other reason, the one that was darker and more strategic. As long as the house is in my name, Mark might find a way to come after it. He might try to claim I coerced him into signing the deed. He could tie me up in court for years. But if the property is transferred to a third party, to you, his claim becomes much, much weaker. It puts the house completely and irrevocably out of his reach. It's the final move. It's checkmate. Liam was quiet for a long time, thinking it over. I could see the logic of my argument dawning on his face. It was not just a gift. It was a fortress. It was a way to protect me and Lily forever. If I do this, he said slowly, I'm not just taking the house. I'll pay you for it. We'll figure out a fair price, and I'll get a mortgage. Or I'll pay you rent, and you can keep the ownership. We'll make it right. We'll figure out the details later, I said, waving my hand dismissively. The important thing is getting it out of Mark's reach. Will you do it? He looked at me, his eyes full of love and concern. If this is what you really want, and if it will give you peace of mind, then yes, I'll do it. The next day, I called Sarah. I told her my plan. She was silent for a moment. Then she said, That is the single most brilliant and ruthless thing I have ever heard a client propose. I love it. It's the perfect final move. It closes every possible loophole. Let's do it. The legal process to transfer the deed from me to Liam was surprisingly simple. Since it was a transfer between family members, it was straightforward. Within another 2 weeks, it was done. The house on Elm Street, Mark's castle, now belonged to my brother. I felt a profound sense of relief. The final tie to my old life had been cut. I knew it was only a matter of time before Mark found out. The public records of property transfers would be updated. He would receive a notification about changes to the property tax records. I braced myself for the explosion. It came on a Tuesday morning. I was feeding Lily, humming a soft lullaby, when my phone started buzzing violently. It was Mark. I ignored it. He called again, and again. Then the text messages started. "What have you done? You can't do this. I'm coming over there." I realized he meant my apartment. My blood ran cold. I quickly called Liam. "He knows," I said. "He's on his way here. Stay inside. Lock your door. I'm calling the police to do a wellness check and report a potential disturbance." "Then I'm coming over," Liam said. "Don't engage with him." I hung up and rushed to lock the deadbolt on my apartment door. My hands were trembling. I picked up Lily, holding her tight against me. A few minutes later, I heard pounding on the door. "Open this door right now," Mark screamed from the hallway. His voice was distorted with rage. "I know you're in there." I backed away from the door, moving towards the bedroom. Lily started to cry, startled by the loud noises. "You gave my house away," he roared. "You gave my house to your worthless brother. You think you can get away with this?" The pounding continued, shaking the entire door frame. I was terrified he was going to break it down. Then I heard other voices in the hallway. "Sir, you need to step away from the door." "Sir, calm down." It was the police. I heard Mark arguing with them, his voice still full of fury. "She stole my house. That woman in there is a thief. This is a civil matter, sir. You need to take it up with your lawyer. Right now, you are causing a disturbance. You need to leave the premises immediately," the officer said, his voice firm and authoritative. I heard more yelling, and then the sounds faded as they escorted him away. I sank onto the bed, shaking uncontrollably, still clutching Lily. A few minutes later, Liam was at the door, calling my name softly. I let him in. He wrapped his arms around me. "It's over," he said. "He's gone." I leaned against him, finally letting the tears come. "He called it his house," I sobbed. "After everything, he still thinks it was his." "He can think whatever he wants," Liam said, his voice hard. "It doesn't matter anymore. He has nothing. No house. No wife. No child. He's just a sad, angry man with nothing left but his own bitterness." Later that day, I got a call from a number I did not recognize. I almost did not answer, but something told me I should. It was Mark's mother. "I know what you did," she said, her voice a low hiss. "You vindictive little snake. You turned my son's life upside down. You stole his home from him." I took a deep breath. I was done being afraid. "Hello, Karen," I said, my voice cool and even. "I didn't steal anything. I simply took back what was mine. The house was bought with my money. You know that. You were a family. You were supposed to share everything. Mark worked so hard to provide for you, and this is how you repay him? By throwing him out on the street," she shrieked. "Mark didn't provide for me. I had my own job until the last few months of my pregnancy. He provided a roof that my inheritance paid for. And he didn't just throw me out on the street. He locked me out while I was in labor with his child. He did that because you encouraged him to." I read the emails, Karen. "I know you were part of his plan to trick me into signing away my rights." There was a stunned silence on the other end of the line. She had not known that I knew. I don't know what you're talking about," she stammered. "Oh, I think you do," I said. "You told him to make me feel insecure. You told him to get me to sign the papers when I was tired and emotional. You are just as guilty as he is. You both deserve what's coming to you." "What is that supposed to mean?" she asked, her voice trembling. "It means that you should be very careful. The only reason those emails are not part of a public court record right now is because Mark signed the house over. But I still have them. And if you or your son ever try to contact me or my daughter again, I will release them. I will send them to every person you know. I will post them online. I will make sure the whole world knows what kind of people you are. Do you understand me? The silence was longer this time. I could almost hear her calculating, realizing that she had no power here. She had been exposed, and she was terrified. Yes, she whispered finally.
Good, I said.
Now lose my number. I hung up the phone. I blocked her number, and I blocked Mark's number. I felt a sense of finality. It was truly over. A few weeks later, I was having coffee with an old mutual friend of mine and Mark's. She had reached out, wanting to hear my side of the story. Mark had been telling everyone that I had gone crazy with postpartum hormones and had stolen his house. I told her everything. I did not show her the emails, but I told her what they said. I told her about the lockout, about the premeditated cruelty. I saw the look of dawning horror on her face. I had no idea, she said, shaking her head. He made it sound like you were completely unreasonable. He played the victims so well. He's good at that, I said. Well, not anymore, she said, her expression hardening. People need to know the truth. And they did. The story started to spread through our old social circle. People who had initially sided with Mark started to distance themselves from him. His carefully constructed image of the successful, devoted family man was crumbling to dust. He was losing friends. I heard from another source that his work was starting to suffer. The stress and humiliation were getting to him. Meanwhile, my life was beginning to bloom. I loved my little apartment. It was small, but it was filled with light and love. Watching Lily grow and change every day was the greatest joy I had ever known. Liam and I had worked out a formal arrangement for the house. He had taken out a mortgage and bought it for me for a fair market price. The money was sitting in a trust fund for Lily's future. It was more security than I could have ever dreamed of. One afternoon, about a year later, I was walking with Lily in her stroller through a park near our apartment. She was babbling happily, pointing at the dogs and the birds. I felt a sense of peace that I had not felt in years. Then I saw him. Mark was sitting on a bench by himself, staring into space. He looked smaller, thinner. His expensive suit was rumpled. He looked lost. He did not see me. I quickly turned the stroller and walked in the other direction. I felt no pity. I felt no anger. I felt nothing at all. He was just a stranger on a park bench. A ghost from a life that was no longer mine. My life was here with my daughter. My life was about the future, not the past. He had tried to take everything from me, but in the end, he had given me the greatest gift of all, the chance to build a new life, a better life, on my own terms. He had screamed about losing a house, a thing made of wood and nails. He had never once reached out to ask about his daughter, a person made of love and hope. And that told me everything I ever needed to know. I was free, and I was finally home.